Hello, and welcome to the Setting the Pace for EV Charging Inside IONITY's Connectivity Journey webinar. This webinar is hosted by Telenor IoT. My name is Piers Teakle. I'm joined here today by my guest, Haugen Ihle. Jan is the Regional Head of North and West Europe at IONITY. Welcome, Jan.
Thank you.
Today, we'll be discussing the challenges in successfully connecting their charging stations while navigating an incredibly quick scale-up of installations in the market. We will also be exploring IONITY's key to successful scalability, how IONITY uses their data to ensure uptime at their sites, and what we can expect from IONITY and the EV charging market in the future. Before I start, I think it's appropriate to give a brief description of both companies. IONITY is building, operating, and expanding their network of high-power charger stations within 24 European countries to date. The charging stations are agnostic to the majority of automotive brands, while at the same time providing 100% renewable energy. They are witnessing 6 million charging sessions among 1 million customers, and I checked on Wednesday morning, and they say they have 456 charging stations, 2,098 charging points, and currently 81 new charging stations under construction. Telenor IoT is a leading provider of managed IoT connectivity with over 20 years experience, working with enterprises globally, local companies, and the public sector. The format of the webinar will be a series of questions, creating a dialogue between Jan and myself. There'll be time at the end for questions from the audience, which you can place in the question box available through the webinar platform. Firstly, I would like to thank Jan for being here and being part of this conversation. And secondly, I would like to start with my first question. The year is 2017. How did IONITY come into existence?
It actually started 1 year earlier when four car manufacturers agree of starting this joint venture. So it was BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen Group with Audi and Porsche and Ford that saw that it was needed to have a pan-European charging network to enable long-distance driving for EV. And that's why IONITY was founded. So we had a clear target from day one. We should cover the main highways. We should be at approximately, with a distance of approximately 120 kilometers. We should have 350 kilowatt high power chargers, and it should be on average 6 chargers per location. And we should also be in 24 of the European countries.
Perfect. And may I ask, what role does managed IoT connectivity play within the services you provide?
First of all these chargers, when we have that big network all across Europe, they need to be connected. So all charger is connected to our backend, and that's enable us to follow them closely. We can follow the utilization, of course, and see how that is developed. And we can do analysis or diagnosis if there's something's happened. We also get error message if something pops up, so we can follow if a certain charger, for example, has a certain problem, and then we can analyze it, and if needed, also send technician, or also things that we can fix on remotely. For example, is in all IT platforms to do restart quite often help take away errors. But on the other thing is that when a customer is at front of our charger, quite often there are we have kind of 2 types of customer: the ones that has charged before and the one that is coming for the first time. And those are coming like 1,000 new EV drivers into the market every month, and they experience the charging station for the first time. Unfortunately, the ones that is delivering the car to the EV drivers are not instructing them or learning them of the one thing that is new, how to get energy into the car and how to charge in a smart way. and therefore we have customer service who at the moment cover 7 different languages, so you can get help on, for most of the country, on the mother tongue, if not English or other, so it's possible. And they can help the customer online. They can, if they don't manage, they can also start their charger remotely, do restarts, etc., and really help the customer. So that's a big value when they're since they're coming so many new users into the market on a daily basis.
I suppose also that gives you sort of control over all your sites. So if you can detect problems, you can, without having to send somebody physically there in order to research or understand what is happening, you have a visibility of that before.
Yeah,
something that I noticed. Sorry.
Yeah, that's important for us because we don't want to send a technician there if it's not necessary to like change a spare part or do all the other things. We want to do that, of course, online. It's more efficient, but it's quicker to fix it, and it's also more cost efficient because sending people out, driving, using a lot of hours has a cost. But if necessary, we have that team also across Europe.
If we move to 2018 to 2019, IONITY goes from 7 to 200 charging stations deployed. What's been the key for that scalability and that sort of deployment speed?
We did a lot of preparation, especially the first year, because we are not doing the physical installation ourselves, and we are not producing the chargers ourselves. So of course we needed to find agreement with supplier of chargers, and secondly also we needed to have a supplier who can do like first of all the civil work, because we need to dig, we need to deploy new tarmac, install the cabling, do all that kind of stuff. We are doing the product management. And last but not least, we needed to have site partners. So we started with site partners who had control over a lot of their sites, like in the Nordic, Circle K, Tank & Rast, Shell, those kind of partners. And that enabled us to make a frame agreement and roll out quicker. And so that was the total thing. We needed to prepare a lot, and then we were ready and could really push the button, do all the permitting application and start the rollout.
Very interesting. I mean, typically what we see is there's a large percentage of companies when they look to use managed IT connectivity, they're focusing on one aspect. So if we take preventative maintenance as a key for most companies starting with IoT, IONITY is embracing preventative maintenance, a pay-per-use sort of a billing solution for their customers, remote monitoring and uptime guarantees. How's that being handled within IONITY, and how are you coping with those sort of 4 or 5 pillars of areas to be concerned of?
Yeah, it's important for us to have a good dashboard so we can see and following online or updated data all the time, so we can see if there are a certain station that has a charger or more out of service. Also getting the error codes if something is happening, so we can also see if a customer is trying several times to use a charger, and that's indicate that something is wrong. We also following if it goes too long, like if a charger is not in use for a day or more days, and on a station where we have high utilization, we know that something is wrong. So we need to do the diagnose or maybe send a person out on site. So it's crucial for us to really know what is going out in the network, and they are in like every corner of the countries. So we need to gather those data and also process them to give us the information to steer the business.
And is it fair to say that IONITY has been designed to focus on these elements rather than you're making a product, so to speak, and then you utilized IoT? It's really been from the beginning of your journey that these have been your main focuses.
Yeah, we have, to be honest, we have also learned, because the first phase I started with responsibility for both developing, installing, and operating the network in the Nordic and the Baltics. But when we have, for a little bit more than 2 years ago, we have reached our first target of the first 400 or close to. Then we look into how can we do it even better, and then we saw it was necessary to split the main so to say processes. So I'm having now Northern and Western Europe, but it's reporting for the development and the installation of the charger, and we have an own organization who's take care of the operation. So we have a central operation who is monitoring and following them, so in the computers doing the analysis and the diagnosis, and then we have the field service team who is doing everything that is necessary to do on this out in the field, like the normal maintenance, the repairs, the warranty work, if the supplier of the hardware can't manage quick enough. Because when EV driver comes to a site, it's not just to fill up because it's good to have the petrol in the car, like in diesel and petrol car, but it's a real necessity to move further on or maybe come home in the evening. So the charger must work all the time, at least most of them. Otherwise, people are stranded in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. So it's really crucial to know that everything is in order, and also to have the workforce to fix things if something is wrong.
Perfect. And sorry, just a question out of curiosity that just came to my mind. How do your customers typically find where your charging stations are? Is there a bit of research before they take their journey, or is there an app where they can access the sites and see where they are on their route?
And there's many ways to roam, so to say. There are a lot of different apps, maybe too many. We have our own app where you can see the chargers. You can also see the different sites. You can go in and see how many chargers there are per site. You can see if someone is out of order, how many are in use and how many is available and for free. We also connected to Google Maps, so you will see the same there. And also a lot of other apps like Better Route Planner, Plug, Surfing. So we are very open, and we provide the data, so everyone that wants to develop an app can use the data and also can sell our services. Additionally, we are also in the navigation of the car, because when you are driving, you are not allowed to operate the app. You should not touch the screen or try to avoid, and then you need to be inside the app of the car, so they can plan the route for you and help you to guide you to the final destination. So we are also in the navigation of the different cars.
Perfect. And if we look at, so if we move to the year 2020, obviously it was the year of COVID-19, and a lot of European countries shut down their economies in order to try and combat the spread of COVID. How did the dramatic drop in automotive usage within Europe affect IONITY in this period in terms of maybe development or deployment?
Yeah, the strange thing, I was just looking into the data to see how has the year, so to say, developed, and we have almost tripled the usage every year. We see no sign that COVID had any effect. It could maybe even be higher, but it has increased, and I think also that people try to not interfere with others, so be inside the car was kind of safe bet. Also to drive within the country, so we see that the utilization was increasing. People are more traveling by car. So for our point of view, the usage for us was constantly increasing. We had the plan, and we had so to say also wanted to build more station and complete the project that we have already started. The thing where we noticed challenges was like crossing border. For example, in Norway, it was not allowed actually to cross the border to Sweden. So that made it difficult, of course, to continue to develop the charging network in Sweden from Norway, because we are handling the Nordic from Norway. We had, of course, suppliers, so we can do something, and we can do something remote. But that was more the thing that created challenge for us, that was difficult to cross borders. Of course, the charger was connected, so we can follow and see what was happening. So to be on the other side, we have employed more people since we are growing, and we also make sure that we have employees in in the countries that are in growth. So if the border should shut down again, that shouldn't make any problem. So now we have like installers and network developers, both in Norway and Sweden, for example, and we have also expanded in the other countries, so that will not make a problem for us if the borders is closed again.
Perfect. And I suppose, again, just relaying it back to the fact that your sites are all connected, you're receiving the data, again, the requirement for somebody physically on site is made redundant. And so you can avoid that sort of challenge that I think we appreciate that some industries face, that sort of real problem in terms of not being able to get on site or to have physical presence. If we take a look at the services that IONITY provides, so if we take it from the viewpoint, a customer of yours stops at a charging site, what sort of services can they expect to receive?
There are different aspects. If we start with the payment, there are different ways of paying at our station. You can have the thing that is coming more and more is the plug and charge. Then you have a subscription that is in your car. So when you connect the cable to your car, the charger is checking if this car has a valid subscription, and if it's a valid, it can give power to the car. If you don't have plug and charge, they can have a subscription still, and they maybe have an RFID tag that you are touching the charger, and of course the charger then do a check that this charging card is valid, and then can start the charging process. It could be different kind of apps that is also starting our chargers, but then it's not actually sending signals directly to the charger. It sends signals maybe to a hub that sends a signal to our backend that sends a signal to the charger to charge the charging session. That's the same if it's an external app. Of course, if our internal, it goes directly to our backend, and then you can also follow. At least at our app, you can follow the charging session, so you can see the amount of kilowatt hours in real time that is charged, and also the cost if you have an ad hoc customer. And it's also possible to scan the QR code, and then you can do a payment. So a lot of different ways to do it. And we're also now introducing the bank card or the credit card, so you can tap on the chargers. That make it also easier for the ones that don't have any kind of relationship, don't have any kind of app or a subscription. That's the payment. And then I also mentioned a bit earlier about the hotline, the customer support. You can call them, and then they can sort of help you and actually handle the charger for you, start the charging session, or guide you through the process that will enable you for the charging. It could also be like CCTV, so we are monitoring places. We are not done that in so many countries yet, but for example in the Baltics we have that up and running. Yeah, I think that's the services that the customer is facing.
Perfect. Yeah. And if we take a look from sort of an internal point of view from your side, from IONITY side, the data that you're sort of being able to analyze, what sort of data are you using to analyze sort of in order to see the uptime of some of these sites in terms of how you're monitoring that?
Especially is that they are online, of course, and that they are not sending any error message, and we see that they are in use. So that is following all the way. Important thing for us is also to follow the utilization and see how that is developing, to plan also if you should expand, because sometimes we like build, for example, 4 and prepare for 6, so it's easier for us to add 2 extra charger, but we need to know at a certain point the utilization goes above a certain limit, then we need to add chargers. Or if we need to expand, when we think expanding, then we need to start a total new project to add 6 or 12 extra chargers, but we need to monitor this data. We also use the data from the charger, because last summer we have summer hosts on the location where we have the most traffic, and then we also look into which day has the most traffic and down to which hour has the highest traffic, to really plan the schedule for the site hosts on the different kind of sites, because this can differ from site A, B to C how the utilization are, because that's depending on, of course, the traffic pattern and where do people go on vacation. And now we are planning to do that this year again, and we can go into the certain month and certain days in the month, and also then combine it, of course, if there are some kind of special public holiday, and really plan how to help the customer in the best possible way during summertime, when we know that there will be high utilization and we know that there will be queues. So then they're out there helping the EV drivers to have a best customer experience as possible.
Perfect. And we mentioned at the top of the show that you're currently in 24 European countries. How has an international roaming SIM made life easier for you in terms of deployment? And what I mean by that is the fact that you can take a connectivity SIM from Telenor IoT, place it into any of your sites in the 24 countries, and you get access to the local networks there. From a deployment point of view, how has that made life easier for you than dealing with one supplier than potentially a multiple of suppliers?
Of course, it gets much better overview. We know the cost. We have one supplier instead of a lot of them that is varying, and it's especially for the installers, and because, for example, in Scandinavia we have rollout plans that can work both in Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, and then they can have the same SIM in their pocket or in the car to insert in the charger, and also so it's much easier to work cross border, and logistically wise we have like one bunch of SIM card that we can just share, instead of making sure that we have that one for Italy, that for France, that would be a mess and create a lot of extra work. So it's much easier to have just one type of SIM card that we can use all over. That's really
and you mentioned at the beginning that you're often finding your deployments are in highways, so potentially not always in an urban area where we can you can bet your house that you'll find some sort of connectivity. You're maybe going in remote locations where having access to multiple networks is key in terms of that coverage. Have you found any challenges being able to utilize different networks? Has that been brought to your attention, or is it pretty much working seamlessly from choosing between the networks and maybe some difficult coverage locations?
It's like you said, we are to enable long distance driving. We are in between the big cities. So on the highway, we have started to come a little bit into the city, but mostly that is working fine. We have a few sites in the European network where we have struggled with coverage, but that it's generally lower coverage in that area. But that has worked very fine, that we can always connect to the ones that has the highest so to say signal, and that's helpful for us. But it's totally crucial. We can't operate without connectivity, because we can't pay, we can't follow, so that's not possible. So but it hasn't been any major problem. That has worked quite fine. We have just a few stations where we have connectivity challenges, but mostly it's fine.
Perfect. So the first initial questions we're looking at the current play and what you've done previously. The next sort of couple of questions will be around about the future, in terms of what can we expect to see from IONITY in the future, and do you have plans to go beyond Europe, or is Europe going to be your focus market for the foreseeable future?
So we are still focusing on Europe. What we will do in 5 to 10 years, difficult to say, but at the moment that's the focus, because also we see that the market is growing faster than we thought. So if we look at the expectation, or we have every year, for example, look at what will be the number of EVs in 2025 and 2030, and that number has constantly increased. So the thing that has done for us is that we have at least so far we are stick to the plan for 2025, the number of location, but we have increased the number of connectors per location to take care of the increased volume or the increased sales that we see is happening in a lot of the European countries now. And I come into the EV business back in 2011, starting up the Norwegian network for Fortum, and we have constantly thought too small. So we think we are bold, but it's getting bigger, and that is happening still, even at 12 years after that. It's growing quicker and quicker. And we see the uptake in the different countries when it's so to reach a certain percentage of the sale, then the markets starts to understand the change, and that the sale is increasing dramatically. Sweden, for example, 2 years ago, almost no queue, very few charger on the station if you were driving around. Now queue is the biggest problem. On Fridays, people sometimes wait 1.5 hours. So we really need to deploy more charger, and that happened within 2 years. So and we see that happen also in other countries. That when the growth really, so to say, passes a certain amount, it's really grow exponentially.
Perfect. And my final question, I promise. Do you have any bold predictions for the EV charging market? Anything we should be looking out for?
I think I already touched a little bit about it, but I think we need to think really big when we talk about the station. We need to have enough charging, maybe not for the peak hours, but to deploy enough. Some countries, for example, UK, they have a big challenge with the grid, so they have now a big fund to increase it, but we are meeting big challenges to get enough power. It's not enough power in the country that's the problem, but more the grid. So the connection is good enough on the certain amount. So I think the thing we will see is, as I said, when the country starts to grow, it will grow very quick, and then it's challenging to build quick enough to provide enough charging. And that's different from country to country, depending on how many have the opportunity to charge at home, or how many is parking by the curb and needs to use public charging. UK again, for example, we see a different usage pattern. It's more like flat. In the other countries, we see more peaks on Fridays, Sundays, and that gives a signal that maybe the UK EV driver have less charging point on a daily basis, so and they are more depending on the public network, and that's why they are charging more evenly through the week.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Jan, for your participation, engagement today, and giving us your time. And for all those listening, if you would like further details on IONITY and Telenor IT, please do take a look at our respective websites and to get in touch accordingly. I've been asked by our marketing team to make sure that you're aware that there is an IoT, Telenor IoT gathering in which you can register and attend to on our website. So without further ado, thank you very much, Jan, and I look forward to speak with you in the near future.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to tell our story.
Perfect. Thank you.